Kimberly Dawn Baker, and the General Assembly Coordinator for the Arkansas Assembly for American State National. And so I'm glad you guys are here, but I wanted to just take a minute and talk to you guys about how we've been lied to. Look, I know that some of this information that I give you today, it may do some different things to you. It may spark you. You may get mad. In fact, you're probably going to get mad. You may get angry. You may go into denial. I did. Anybody that's had this information has had to go through the steps of grief of knowing how bad the system that we live in is really bad. Pretty much in every realm that we live in, we've been lied to, from education system, from our governmental system, from the medical system, from the banking system, from our religious system, schools, which is education, the tech system. It doesn't matter. We've been lied to. We've been under controlled rule now since about 1812 is what we've been able to take it back to. If you go back with the popes and the Brits, they've actually been controlling most of the world since even before that, going all the way back to the Queen, oh my gosh, I can't even remember her name, Claudia or something. Anna's taken it all the way back to like the 1500s in that realm, okay, from those guys. But as far as America is concerned, I'm only going to talk about America and what has happened with America, because our stuff started in 1776. Actually, it started before 1776. If you go back in Boston with the Boston Tea Party, you had, if you look at where America was before we were a country with government, we had common law here. Common law came in 1215. We had Magna Carta, and Magna Carta was done where they had the king, and that is where the barons came in and they did common law. I've done the history on this on other videos, the whole history of Magna Carta. I'm not going to actually go through that today because I'm going to teach on other things, but common law was something that was done worldwide. The barons came into the king and the British during that time, and Magna Carta is where we get common law from. Common law was and is what America was founded on, is common law. And basically, common law is don't bring harm, injury, damage, or loss to anybody. If you bring harm, injury, damage, or loss to somebody, then you're held accountable for that. It's real simple. Common law is not hard. There's no speeding tickets and all of the stuff that has been added to us through paying taxes. There is no paying taxes in our country. It's all not right. But I'm going to start with how our government was set up in 1776. It's actually going to be the 250th year this year for that, for our country's existence. And how it was set up, our founders were actually pretty brilliant. The way international law works, and I've got to start with law, because international law, there's 3 jurisdictions. There's only 3. You have land jurisdiction, water jurisdiction, which is sea jurisdiction, and you have air jurisdiction. It's real simple. We have land, which we stand on. We have water, which we sail on, right? And then we have air, all right? So let me explain. Land is common law. That's where your common law comes in, with land jurisdiction. Land is going to be people. That's where we deal with all people, and you're going to deal with anything that is a tangible asset. Gold, silver, okay? Land property, land patents, that's how we were set up here in America, would be land patents, not warranty deeds, but land patents, and they were passed on. Our country that's land jurisdiction, all right? Every country has their own land jurisdiction. America has its land jurisdiction, Britain has it, China has it, every country has their own land jurisdiction. Well, here's what happened with air jurisdiction. I'll do air next, okay? Air jurisdiction is going to deal in, think of airy, okay? So air is not tangible. That's where you're going to have like copyright. That's where you're going to have like songwriters and people who write books, publishing, and that kind of thing. You're going to deal with, air jurisdiction also deals with like religious law, okay? Because religion, that's your belief system, okay? That's your mind, anything thought, creativity, ideas, okay? So that's going to be air jurisdiction. So your court systems that are built and your court systems that are set up in air jurisdiction, that's the type of stuff that they would deal with. There's more, but that's the kind of stuff they would deal with, okay? Just to kind of give you an idea. Songwriters, you know, that it creates anything like that, creativity, all right?
Can you see yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
All right, and then the third jurisdiction that's international is going to be sea jurisdiction, okay? Sea jurisdiction is going to be done with contracts, okay? Corporations, all right? They literally only deal with two things in sea jurisdiction. They deal with contracts with corporations, which are dead entities. They're not living people, flesh and blood, because remember, that's land jurisdiction. Your flesh and blood is going to be land jurisdiction. Your sea jurisdiction is going to be corporations, which is all caps, fake entities, they're corporations, and it's going to deal, the admiralty side of sea jurisdiction is going to be dealing with like your navies and your shipping. Anything that's done on a ship, because it's in the sea, right? It's not be on land, it's going to be stuff that's done in the sea. And what do we have in the sea? We have corporations shipping their products all over the world, right? So that's why you have contracts between corporations, and you deal with, you know, shipping cargo, manifest, tariffs. You can have tariffs. Tariffs is sea jurisdiction is going to be taxes that you have on corporations and their products, all right? Totally different jurisdictions. So before 1776, all right, just so we're all clear on this, before 1776, these jurisdictions were set up by the Vatican and set up by these kings and all of this for centuries. Everybody knew land, air, and water jurisdiction. We don't know that in America. We're not taught that in America. It's simple, but this is not stuff that we're taught in American history. We're not, okay? Those three jurisdictions. So our government set up constitutions. We had the signing of the Declaration of Independence, declaring ourselves free from Britain, because this country was not like a, quote, country. We had colonies that were set up, but we're free people. People are free. We were created by our Creator, and He gave us liberty. And common law makes it real simple of we were given liberty, but if I bring harm, injury, damage, or loss to any of you, I'm responsible for my actions, and I got to make restitution on that. You know what I'm saying? That's just, it's plain, simple, cut and dry. When you talk jurisdictions during the 1776 time, when all of this stuff went down with our country being built, it was already known that air jurisdiction was ruled and run by the Pope. He had taken over air jurisdiction way back in the 1300s. We're talking way back. The Pope took control over air jurisdiction, courts, and dealings way back then. And our people knew it in America. Our founders knew that. And so air jurisdiction, remember I said it's creativity, songs, copyrights, religion, belief systems. All of that was run by the popes. And he ran air jurisdiction internationally for the world, okay? Then there's sea jurisdiction. At the time of 1776, the British, they had the strongest navy in the world. And everybody knew it back then. They actually had the biggest, largest navy in the world. The protections, there were pirates and stuff on the seas, and so the Brits actually took over the, quote, sea jurisdiction because of that they were the largest navy, and they would help out other countries, and they would make contracts and stuff with other countries to protect them on the waterways with shipping. And so that was known, that they ran the sea jurisdiction. So the way our country was set up after 1776, when we broke off from the Brits and said we're going to make our own country, we are declaring our own independence as our own country set by common law, we did that. We put in 3 constitutions. Now, did you guys know we had 3 constitutions? Some of you do because you've heard this presentation before, but when you heard the presentation the first time, I guarantee you did not know we had 3 constitutions, because I didn't either. I was like, what? I know about the Constitution. We all know, we were taught the Constitution in school. They don't teach it anymore, by the way. They don't teach civics anymore to our kids. That's been going for quite some time. But anyways, the 3 constitutions. So, in 1787, we had our first constitution that was written. It is called the Constitution for the United States of America, but the U for United is a lowercase u. If you go back to English 101, when you have a lowercase u for United, it's not the USA. It's the United there is an adjective, which is a description word for the noun, which was States of America, capital S for states, capital A for America. The reason why they did that was they were very precise in their doing, because the way we were set up was each one of the states is its own nation, okay? Each state is its own nation. We are nation states, and we have united together as each nation state. There were 13 at the time, 13 colonies made into states, right? And they added them as we went, but those 13, quote, states of America had united together in their own sovereign state capacity and had representatives go and help create these constitutions, okay? Each state itself is sovereign, not a whole big USA country. If that was 1787, that contract was a contract for land jurisdiction, okay? Land jurisdiction that's when we had the States of America. That was our, quote, federal government. That was our federal republic. When you hear people talk about the federal republic, that was the republic. It was the republic. And it stayed intact all the way up until the Civil War, which we will discuss that in a minute. But it stayed intact until the Civil War, and I'll explain what happened then. The second Constitution that was written in 1789, 2 years later, okay, a year and a half, 2 years later, it was the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, that is the Constitution that you and I know. That's the Constitution that we were taught in school. That is actually a C jurisdiction Constitution, okay? There were 18 enumerable things that we wanted done, okay? A Constitution is basically a contract. It's a contract that you make to say, hey, we're going to do this and you're going to do that. We're going to do this and you're going to do that. We're going to do this and you're going to do that. We all agree? Good. Well, the reason why we set up that contract is a C contract. We made a contract with the Brits, with the British. That Constitution was a contract that we made with the British. C jurisdiction. Why? During that time, we're a small country. We're just now starting up. We've got 13 colonies, and we want to do shipping. We want to do shipping all across the world with the stuff that we have that we build, and we want to ship our stuff. But there were pirates that were taking our ships down, so we actually needed British's help. We need Britain's help to help us. So we made a contract for a navy. The British brought in a navy, and we had their navy training our navy, and we had a contract for them to protect us on the inland waterways and out on the open sea. And we contracted with them 19, I think it's 19, it could be 18, innumerable services that we wanted them to do. That's it. 19 things in that contract they were supposed to do, and not one thing more. We didn't ask for taxes. We didn't ask for driver's license. We didn't ask for cops to be given us speeding tickets. We didn't ask to move into our states and take over our courts with British maritime law. We didn't ask for none of that. We had 18 things we asked them to do, and not one thing more. That's in that contract. I'm not going to go over them all because I have way too much to cover. I just am trying to give you an overview, okay? That was a sea jurisdiction contract. In 1790, okay, in 1790, we did a third contract, which is the third Constitution. It's called the Constitution of the United States. Not the United States of America, but the United States. It is an air jurisdiction contract. It is a contract we made with the Pope. Why? Well, postal system. The Pope had the best. Remember, we're a new country starting off. We didn't know how to do postal systems. We didn't know how to do all of the postmaster stuff, but let me tell you, the Pope knew how to do all that stuff. They had been sending stuff worldwide since the 1300s and before. You know what I'm saying? They had that stuff down to a science. We made a contract with the Pope, which is air jurisdiction, to come in and set up a postal system in our country and to help us get a postal system set up so that we could have that set up. And we made a contract with them to do it. Makes sense, right? Makes sense when you finally learn what the heck these constitutions mean and what they were set up to contract for. And so that was the contract we made. Now, we made this clear in 1789 before we did the third air contract. Our government and our justice system came in with the Judiciary Act, okay? The Judiciary Act of 1789, that's when our judges and stuff and our government came together and put together a whole thing of to say, okay, wait a minute. We have a contract for land jurisdiction, which is common law, right? To protect the people and their land and their assets. And then now we've got the British contract with the sea, with the navies to protect our ships and to do all that. We need to make clear what kind of court systems we have here in America. And so in 1789, that is when we did the Judiciary Act, and that is when Erastus C. Benedict, who was alive during that time, he is the foremost person on the admiralty courts and the court system that we put up here in America. And the way our court systems were going to work, now remember, every state is its own nation, right? So the way our court systems were set up was all of our counties, all right, all of our counties would have their county courts, and their county courts were the Supreme Courts. Not the Supreme Court you see up in Washington, D.C. That's sea jurisdiction. What we have up there right now is sea jurisdiction court. That's for their corporations and for their militaries and all that. That has nothing to do with the people and the land. Our Supreme Courts are the county courts. That's the supreme law of the land. There's nothing more supreme than that, is your county court, because it's the closest to the people. That's where our grand juries are supposed to be. Our grand juries and our juries are supposed to be of our peers and our neighbors and our friends, right? That's the way we set it up. And so the common law courts, it was supposed to be set up that way. The court systems that we have in each county today is British maritime courts. They are illegal courts operating on our soil. They're illegal. They're not supposed to be here. If you go look at any court case that you've ever had, I don't care. My name's Kimberly Dawn Baker. When we're in school and I write my name, it's capital K, lowercase I-M-B-E-R-L-Y. Capital D, Dawn, you know, capital M for Montgomery, or B for Baker. Sorry, I just used my maiden name. I'm just not thinking. Anyway, that's how we write it. But if you go into a court system, your name is in all capital letters, which means they are illegally misidentifying you as a corporation, because that's the only way they can deal with you in a sea jurisdiction court, is to make you a corporation and not living flesh. Legally. It's illegal, but that's what they're doing. So that's county courts, all right? Then our next thing was to have a state court, okay? The way it was set up, you have your county courts, they're the Supreme Court. Then we had state courts, and the state courts would deal with major things, not people things, but for instance, if you had roads, bridges, resources, like let's just say you had a river that was contaminated, you know what I mean, and you needed to take something to court on that because the people are dumping stuff in the river and it's contaminated and we figured out we need to take them to court. That wouldn't be done at a county level. That would be done at a state level. You see what I'm saying? So we did have state courts. That's the kind of stuff that they would deal with in the state, back in 1776, back in the early days. So that was the court system. That's common law, and that's land jurisdiction, all right? Now, the federal courts, the admiralty courts we had, Erastus C. Benedict and the Judiciary Act of 1790 made it clear that the only courts that we would have in this country would be American admiralty courts. The American admiralty courts, we had our own admiralty law. We didn't have British now. We did have the British Navy here, and we did have, we did have help from them with constitutions, but they were not supposed to deal with our people. We had American admiralty that dealt with the military, okay, so American admiralty law would deal with the military, and it would deal with any kind of shipping, anything that is on inland waterways, all right? What is an inland waterway? Remember, it's got to be something on the water. It can't be dealing with stuff on the land. So it has to be done in the water. So they would deal with shipping, or if, let's just say, I took a trip on a boat and somebody stole something from me, or this, that, and the other, or we had a cargo issue or something like that, it would go through the American admiralty courts. All right? But not all rivers are inland waterways. The Mississippi River is an inland waterway. The Arkansas River is not. So the Arkansas River would be considered land jurisdiction because it doesn't operate as an inland waterway. There's certain speculations that you have to have an inland waterway. There are only a few rivers in our country that are inland waterways that would be done with American admiralty. So there's that one. All right, and then they made the distinction between air jurisdiction too. So that was made clear in 1790. That is how our government was set up. And the system that the British had to deal with their people, because remember, there wasn't just Americans that were here on our soil. The British were here too. They were British citizens. You see what I'm saying? But they lived here and they worked here doing things, but they weren't liable to our law with American admiralty and our common law. They actually had to fall under their British law. Okay, so we had court systems that were set up for them to deal with their people, which is, that contract shows the Supreme Court that they have. All of this stuff was supposed to be contained in Washington, D.C. It wasn't supposed to be moved across. Their district courts, their federal district courts that are all over our nation, that are federal district courts, they were never supposed to be here. They operate in British laws, foreign to our country. So anyway, all of that was made clear in 1789 and 1787 and to 1790 when we put these constitutions together. All of this stuff was made clear. They knew exactly what they were doing. Okay? So we moved forward. This is how our country was set up. We have our own nation. When you were born, you were not a U.S. citizen, okay? When you were born back then, you were considered a state national of your state when you were born, okay? And so, for instance, I was born in Arkansas, so I'm an Arkansan. If you were born in California, you'd be a Californian. In New York, you'd be a New Yorker. I mean, whatever state you were born in, that was your nationality because it's its own nation. There was the U.S. citizens was all caps, and guess what? That's your British people that are working here, and they were never allowed to own property. Just let you know that if you were a British citizen and you came over here to work, by law, you can't own property in America or in one of our states, which comes in with the warranty deeds, okay? Warranty deeds, all right, warranty deeds that we have are British see jurisdiction law. We had land patents signed by a president, okay? And so, for instance, I have a land patent on my property. I had to go get that from the government, and a land patent is signed by a president. It was given over to John Hancock, who actually, that was his name, who actually owned our property and got the land patent. And then in the bottom of it, it says, at the very bottom, it says, this property belongs to John Hancock and his family and heirs and assigned forever. So that is in there. It's signed by a president. That is a treaty. Okay? Anything signed by a president is done like that in a contract way on land jurisdiction is called a treaty. Okay? Land jurisdiction is treaties. Sea jurisdiction is contracts or constitutions and that type of thing. Okay? So it is a treaty. Your land patents. That was a treaty given. So whoever he sold it to or passed it on to his family and his heirs or assigns forever. Well, guess what? I'm an assign. I'm not an heir to him, but I'm an assign because we bought it. And so I'm an assign, and that land is mine forever. And nobody can come take it away from me. And the whole bankruptcy courts and all of the courts that we have here are all sea jurisdiction with warranty deeds that are absolutely illegal in this country. Your mortgage is a fraud. Sorry to tell you all this. I know some of you are going to get angry. I know some of you are probably cussing me right now on YouTube. And I understand that this is hard to take in. But your mortgage, what does it mean? Put it out. What does mortgage mean? It's a death note. If you go to the morgue, if somebody died, a mortgage is a death note. It's a death note in a contract with an all-caps entity. Remember I told you about if I'm in land jurisdiction, my name is upper and lowercase. If you go look at your warranty deed and you go look at your stuff, it's going to be in an all-caps name. It's not sold to you. It was sold to a fake entity that was created in your name without your knowledge or consent. It's a fraud. They're all fraud. It's all fraud. I'm not going to go deeper into that. I'm just lazing it over. We're just going to go from there and move forward. We weren't supposed to pay taxes either, guys. There was no such thing as taxes. Our founders, but the Boston Tea. Why did they have the Boston Tea thing to happen? It was overtaxed. It was taxing the tea. That's why they threw all the stuff off the ship. But because of the taxes, the king was trying to tax us to death. And in America, we don't do taxes. We don't know that. We weren't taught that. But we're not supposed to have income taxes. We're not supposed to have any kind of tax. Death tax, any kind of tax. We don't do taxes. All right, so I'm going to move forward. That was the Constitution. That's the way it was set up. Now we move forward. Now this stuff was, I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to explain a few things, and this might make some people go research it, is all I have to say. In 1812, okay, in 1812, we know what happened, or at least we know what we were told in school. We were told that the Brits came in, and we had a war with the Brits, and they came and they burned down the Capitol, and they burned down the White House, or burned up the White House, and they came in, but what they were trying to get was that 1787 Constitution, which was the land constitution for the Federal Republic. They did not like that we had our own land constitution and we were our own country. British wanted to own the world. And it just is. I mean, go back and look at all the Rajas they did, you know, in Africa and everywhere else. India, everywhere, okay? They did not want us to have that. So they came in and they were trying to get and destroy all of the 1787 contracts and to literally take us down. Well, they did not win, okay? They didn't win there. What we have found out since then, I'm just going to take a quick minute and just say that in 1812 to 1814, a lot of the records in our courthouses and in a lot of these records have been disseminated and taken and rewritten. We were bombed. There are pictures, there is evidence of Russia was bombed and we were bombed by the controllers who rule our world today. J.P. Morgan, Chase, Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and their ancestors. You know what I'm saying? And who those controllers that control us today, if you go back, their ancestors got together and they literally took out the two countries that were going land jurisdiction to have it where we were free people and each country was their own free nation, and they didn't want that because the Pope and the Brits wanted to rule the world, just the way it is. They bombed us. That's where our mudfloods came in. When we were bombed, all of these old world buildings, if you go back and look at the pictures, stone does not melt. Stone, they call it the big fire of all these different cities. No, it wasn't fires. We were bombed. If you look at those pictures from the 1800s, you will go back and look and see that these buildings are obliterated. They literally are obliterated. There's stones everywhere on the ground. That is not a fire. That is a bombing of some sort. That's when our mud floods took place. That's when our population all went down. That's when they took free energy away from us. By the way, we used to have free energy, Tesla technology. Tesla didn't come up with that. He went to Budapest. And when he went to Budapest, there's a whole bunch of old world buildings in Budapest. That's where he learned about zero-point energy, and he learned about how you use the ether and the Airbuses and the blimps. All of that was how they used things. It was all stolen from us. It was taken by these controllers. That's where we got gas. This is when they started making airplanes and stuff that run on gas and fuel and oil. This all started so they could be our controllers and put us into slaves. Okay? Move forward from 1814, in that era, our population had dwindled in America and in Russia because of that. Okay? The mud floods happened. We tracked all that down. Now we move forward. And we're hurt as a country, all right? And we're still trying to build and grow. But in 1861, 62, this is where we come up into the Civil War, all right? Moving into the Civil War. When you move into the Civil War, what we had happen is most people aren't told. We were told it was because of slavery, right? That's what we were taught in school. The Emancipation Proclamation that Abraham Lincoln did, they told us that it was all about slavery. And look, let me just tell you, our Declaration of Independence clearly stated that all men were created equal. There was no slavery for color. You see what I'm saying? Like, our Declaration of Independence said it quite clear that we were all created equal and we were all endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, I mean, we made it clear in the Declaration of Independence that we're all free. It didn't say nothing about color. It didn't say nothing about slaves. We made it to where we were a free country from the beginning. So the whole slavery thing that came forth from something else. It came from something else. All right. So the whole slavery thing coming through with the Proclamation and Emancipation Proclamation was a cover story. Guys, we all know about fake news. I mean, let's just get real clear, all right? Fake news has been going on for a long time. If you guys are still watching mainstream media, I am really sorry. You are being told a lie about everything. There ain't nothing real on mainstream media. Nothing. Nothing that you can get is real coming out of mainstream media. Nothing. It's all a show. It's all a joke. Well, they had mainstream media back then, too, okay? I'm just saying, 1865. Now, I know we need to get rid of slavery, but we'd already there was nothing about slavery in our stuff. So those that had slaves and different things that they were doing bad things. The way it used to work, people would not make them sell slaves, but they were employees, and they were supposed to get paid. You know what I mean? If you go in and I work for your cotton or whatever, they were supposed to get paid, or they got room and board, and they got fed, and the different things. A lot of things weren't as it seemed. We are told something different. Now, am I saying that there weren't slaves here? No, I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying that it wasn't set up that way with our Constitution. I'm saying whatever happened and what people did is a whole other story. Moving forward. When you go in and they had the Continental Congress come together, the southern states walked out, okay? The Continental Congress, that's land jurisdiction, that's the first Constitution, that's the Federal Republic from 1787. That is our Congress that is walking in there. They got into a fight with the northern states over corporations. It was over what the northern states wanted to do, bringing in all this business and doing this kind of stuff, and the southern states said, no, we don't want to do that. We're not doing that. We're not allowing control over this. We're not risking our sovereignty of our states. Each state, remember, has its own representative, and all those states are sovereign, right? And they did not like what the northerners were wanting to do, and so they said, we're not doing it. And so what they did was they walked out of Congress without setting a quorum, or not setting a, oh my gosh, I forgot the term, but they didn't set a time to come back together and reconvene. So the moment that the southern states walked out of the argument and the debate over corporations, it was all about corporations. It had nothing to do with slavery. The moment the southern states said, screw it, we're not doing this deal, we're out, and they didn't set a time to come back, it literally dissolved the Republican form of government Constitution of 1787 because they didn't come back. And immediately after that, the northern states went to war with the southern states with the Civil War. And Abraham Lincoln was the president at that time. And let me just tell you something. When you go back and you look at our Constitution, the 13th Amendment, they didn't like the 13th Amendment. Now, I know the 13th Amendment in the Constitution, the sea jurisdiction Constitution that was for the British, okay, is not the same as the Constitution for the 1787 land jurisdiction, because our 13th Amendment said that you could not have nobility and be in office and hold any form of office in our country. You could not hold titles of nobility. It's called TONA, Titles of Nobility Act, T-O-N-A. And that was a big deal when we did that. That's why they came in 1812 and wanted to get rid of that Constitution, because that's when we set that thing in place of the 13th Amendment of saying you can't have any title of nobility and hold any office in our country. Well, the Brits were the only ones that held title of nobility. We didn't hold title of nobility. I'm just as free as Barb over here, and just as free as you. We're all just as free, and we don't have the hierarchy of you're over me. But in British, they had titles of nobility. Well, let me give you some examples of what a title of nobility is. That's your lawyers. That's your attorneys. That's your doctors. That's your dukes. That's your princes. That's your kings. Anybody that held a title. A doctor and an attorney is a title of nobility. That is not anything to do with America. Nothing. Nada. We didn't have doctors. We had physicians. You see what I'm saying? America had physicians. We had guys that you could still go to school and get a degree, but you didn't have to go take that stupid test to become a doctor. You see what I'm saying? And you could go and learn law and become, you know, a lawyer. But to become an attorney in this country, what do you have to do? You have to take the bar exam. Guys, what does that mean? British Accredited Registry. They're Brits. It wasn't supposed to be here. Okay, that was our 13th Amendment. That was in our Constitution. All right, we didn't have. Well, guess what Abraham Lincoln was? Abraham Lincoln was an attorney. He wasn't even qualified to be a president. I'm just saying, he's not qualified to be a president because he had a title of nobility. That's why we had two presidents. I don't know if you know, during that time we had Andrew Jackson. I think that's right. It was Andrew Jackson and Lincoln at the same time. Why did we have two presidents? Because one was totally illegitimate.
They called him the vice president, right?
So all of that was found out during that time, okay? But there's where the Civil War comes in, and we had the North and the South, and the sad thing is because our people by that time didn't know, because of what happened in 1812 to 1814 when a lot of the people died. A lot of our people died when they bombed us in Russia. And we're just now finding that out. It's not in our history. We have had people like you and me just go dig this history out and dig the evidence out. So they didn't know. And we were totally caught off guard in 1865. And so that whole war took place. Well, during that time, our federal republic, okay, the federal republic that we had was dissolved. Those people that were leaders in the Federal Republic at that time were running for their lives. They did the cover story of the North versus South, and we had this war. Well, let me just tell you what happened. It was a fight between the Pope and the Brits. And they used our sons and daughters to do it. The Pope funded the South, and the Brits funded the North. And they used our kids and our ancestors to destroy one another over something they said was about slavery, and it was literally the Pope and the Brits wanting control of this country. And the Brits won. And the whole time that our kids are going to war, those that were actually a part of our Federal Republic, that first Constitution, our leaders, they were running for their lives. And the reason I know this is because our Federal Republic, our federal Republican form of government, is now up and running, and has been up and running since 2001 and 2004. You know what I'm saying? Because Anna Reisinger and her husband James Belcher, his family was actually, they saved all the documents from 1865. His relatives were the ones running. They were the ones that were the seal keepers. The keeper of the, you know, the seal with the eagle that's holding the olives and the scroll? It's his family seal. It's his family seal that was used, because his family line goes all the way back to those barons I was talking about in 1215 in Magna Carta. That's a whole other thing. I do a whole other teaching on that talks about how the family line goes all the way through with the barons, and it's their family seal, the Belcher family seal that's actually used. That teaching is on YouTube at the Arkansas Assembly YouTube channel. You can go find that and get that history. I do like a 2-hour teaching on that, and the history of it is phenomenal. Just a point on that. But anyway, James Belcher, his family, they were hiding from their lives. The Brits and the Pope were trying to kill off anyone that was part of the original federal government, and they did. When that happened, when all of that happened and the war started, they were on horseback and they were running for their lives and had the seals and had the documents for our country, and took off running on horse. One of the brothers, 2 brothers, one brother died. I can't remember their names right now, but I had their names in that teaching. If you go listen to that, it's just been a while since I've taught on that. But anyway, they were running for their lives, and one of them gets killed, and another one ends up having to, his horse gets killed, and he ends up having to steal a horse to survive, okay? And he gets through. Well, that family was so scared that from 1860s, from the Civil War all the way up until James Belcher, go descendant to descendant, 3 descendants later, and his parents, James Belcher, his parents hid all of that stuff in their attic, and they were so afraid for their lives, they moved most of their lives. They never stayed in one place long. So James Belcher was raised, never staying in one place very long. His mother was on her deathbed when she finally told him, hey, there's this stuff up in the attic, I need to tell you that we're part of the revolution, that we actually were part of the federal government. We were part of that. Everything that happened in the Civil War, they had the documents to prove everything, that it was literally to take us down, and it was a fight between the Pope and the Brits to take our country, and the Brits won. And they've had our country under siege ever since. And so he learned that, and he's like, what do I do with it? He's an adult. He's got kids that are already raised. He's a grandpa. I mean, this is all happening in like the 1990s. He finds all this out, and he's like, and Anna, his wife, is like, well, we just can't sit on this. You know what I mean? We have to do something about this. And anyway, they began to form our government, and that's where we are now. All the states are up and running. Our federal republic it's not a federal republic under contract. We have that contract, but it's not been set up. But our federation of states is up and running. And Anna and her family, James Belcher has passed away this past year, but his son has taken over as the head of state, and she's the fiduciary of our country to help our federal republic. And anyway, so that is all what happened in the Civil War. We were told it was because of slavery, but no, it was the Brits and the Pope trying to take over our country, and the Brits won, and they used our kids to do it. It's sad. It's really sad. Okay. Now we move forward. 1913. We've been taken over by the Brits. Okay. Our common law courts from that point on. If you go to the South, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the carpetbagger courts. Anybody ever heard of that? All of us that live in the South, we know. Because our courts were immediately taken over in the South from that moment on, and they brought in judges and attorneys, bar attorneys. They brought them in from the British, and they took over all of our southern states, okay? And they set up their courts with what we call carpetbagger courts. Well, why do we get carpetbagger courts? Because they came in when their suitcases looked like tapestry. Like carpet, you know, it looked like tapestry. And so that's why it's the carpetbagger courts. But they literally were bringing in British law, which is totally different than American law. And they literally had us under a thumbhold. Guys, the court system hasn't changed. We are literally being pillaged in our county courts all the time. And we haven't committed any crime. We haven't brought harm, injury, damage, or loss to people, but they are robbing us blind with speeding tickets and everything else. You know what I'm saying? I'm just being real. We're under oppression. We're under foreign control. Okay, so that comes in. We lost common law in the southern states. We still had common law in some states. By 1970, all common law had been eradicated from this country. By 1970, okay? 1865, go up to 1970, it was all gone. We stopped teaching it in schools. Now, if you say common law, the attorneys will say, well, that's fictitious. It's not even a real thing. Believe me, I know. I've had enough court cases and have talked to enough attorney generals like Tim Griffin who says that common law is fictitious. That's a quote. That's not true. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But he's not an American. He is a Brit who is protecting the British, whether he knows it or not. Okay? Moving forward. 1913, we know what happened, and that's when they set up the banking system, right? It was Christmas, and all these guys got together during Christmas, and they set up their little Congress, which, by the way, our Congress never came back into session. Abraham Lincoln, what he did was he assigned military officials, Navy officials, to come in for the southern states and appointed them to be representative for the southern states. We don't do that, we vote. And he put in titles of nobility, because that's military, guys, that's titles of nobility. Your military, they hold the title of nobility too. General, court colonel, they have name. Whatever they have before their name, that's a title of nobility. You see what I'm saying? Doctor, attorney, so-and-so, you know, colonel, that's all. Anyway, they put them in. It's completely unlawful, completely illegal. It's all fraud from there forward. From Abraham Lincoln forward, it's all fraud. It's all fraud. And fraud vitiates everything, and there's no statute of limitations on fraud. We're owed a lot from what's happened to our ancestors and what's happened to us. And we've been put into slavery. We're in slavery. If you do not know that, we are slaves. We are slaves to this system. And the system that they put in the 1913 is when they put in the banking system. I'm not going to go all into the banking. I want to skip forward to what happened in 1933. All right, we move forward. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the president during this time. He actually was a president for a very long time during this time because we didn't have the 4-year stipulation. I can't remember how many years that man was president, but it felt like forever. When you go back and you research it, you're like, my God, can we get rid of this guy? He was horrible. All right? And just let me tell you some of the things he did, okay? First thing he did is he took our gold. Now, let me just say, let's just be real for a minute. Just want to be real with you Americans because we are gun-toting folks, right? Second Amendment, we have the right to bear arms. And you can't infringe on that right, which means I don't care what gun law you put into place or what gun permit you put into place or what you try to put into place to take away our guns or say we have to have a permit, it's all a crock because the Second Amendment makes it clear. We have the right to bear arms, and that right shall not be infringed upon, which means you can't make any laws on guns. We're gun-toting folks, and we've always been gun-toting folks, especially in the South. Right? Well, let me just ask you a question. If the president comes in and says, we want to take all your gold, how many of us would be going when they came to get our gold, would not have a shotgun sitting in their face saying, you ain't taking my gold? I mean, let's just be realistic. Why did we let them take the gold? Why? I got to let you know why. Because the president made a deal, and the Congress made a deal with the people. This is why we allowed them to take our gold. You got to think logically. We got to think critically, guys, because you ain't coming in and taking my money. I'll shoot you dead. And I have rights to do it because you come on my property to steal from me. I don't care who you are, right? But we have in the history books that Franklin Delano Roosevelt came in and took the gold, all right? And we allowed them to do it all over the country. And you know what they did with the gold? You know what they did when they took all of our gold? They made the banks, the world banks. They made, I think, 2 world banks. I can't remember the names of them right now. It's been a minute. 2 world banks is what they ended up making with that banking. They put together a banking system with our gold. But here's what they did. Go look up HJR 192. HJR, that means House Joint Resolution 192 of 1933. So they made a deal with the American people during that time and said, hey, you know what? We're going to take your gold, but here's what we're going to do. All right? If you go look up House Joint Resolution 192 of 1933, when they took the gold, they made the deal, and here's the deal. Everything that we ever bought or used, we would use their FRNs, which is the money that we have today. The cash money that we have today is worth nothing. It costs like 3 cents to print that on paper. It's just paper printed. It's not gold or silver. Gold and silver are intrinsic. It holds value. It's an actual commodity. It holds value. This piece of paper that's printed holds no value, but we made a deal with them, and the Congress said that we would have prepaid credit. All of the gold that we did, we would have prepaid credit. All right? And that prepaid credit from HJR 192, the government was supposed to pay all of our bills from now for forever. We weren't going to have electric bills. We weren't going to have water bills. We weren't going to have house notes. If we wanted to go buy a car, we would go use our credit to go buy that car. It's just like having, okay, so we have credit cards, right? Everybody knows what a credit card is and our debit cards. We all know what that is, right? We have cards. They were supposed to be doing it in funds. It was supposed to be an account that was set up in your name. Everybody would have an account, and it would basically be like having a gift card. Not a credit card and not a debit card, a gift card. Okay? It would be a gift card in our name, and we would be able to go, I don't care what you want to go buy. You want to go to Walmart? You need to go get your groceries? Swipe it. You want to buy a car? Swipe it. You want to pay your electric bill and all of your, internet bills? Swipe it. Because they took all of our gold and silver, that was the deal we made. That's why we didn't blow their heads off when they showed up at our house to take our gold. That's why. We weren't taught this, y'all. And guess what? They never set it up. Congress said they were going to set it up, and I know they didn't set it up because I've tried to use it. There's thousands of us across this country that have tried to utilize the H, and it's still in effect. It was never repealed. It's still in effect. HJR 192 is still in effect. And they never have given us away. We were supposed to be able to use it through MOCHI, which is a mutual offset credit exemption exchange. MOCHI, that's what we call it. That's what it's called in the actual law itself. And we tried to use it and send it to the government, and guess what? They don't do anything with it. They don't use it. They just act like we're crazy and we don't know what we're talking about. But our family's gold was all stolen for this. And they never set it up, and that generation died off, okay, in 1933. That's not very far away from now, you know. My mama was born in 1948. That's her parents. That's my mama's parents. So they never got what they were owed. And my mama's parents, we grew up poor. My mama's parents grew up poor because they gave all their gold away. Just saying, guys, for real. And probably a lot of our parents grew up poor because they gave all their gold away and they never got what they were supposed to get. This just makes you angry. It makes me angry. I'm just being for real. This is for real, guys. We're just being for real. Go look it up. Everything I'm saying is completely documented. 1933 is something else that happened. This is all still during Delano Roosevelt. So they took the gold. They promised us prepaid credit. We didn't get it. We still can't get it. Okay? Still can't get it. and they gave us the birth certificate. The way we always did births is you gave announcements, births, deaths, and that kind of thing, and marriages was all done in the newspaper, and you would have a record of it in the newspaper. People would write it, and they had big family Bibles, and they would write it down in big family Bibles. That's why people carried the big family Bibles that sat on your table. They had that as a record for the genealogy of their families because it was all in there. That's why they had that stuff in there. That's the record that you kept. Or you could go document it at the courthouse and put it on a document there and record it at the courthouse. You have a lot of the old stuff with marriages and stuff that's recorded at the courthouse and different things at the courthouses. That's how you recorded things. Well, now all of a sudden we have a birth certificate. Well, guess what that is, y'all? That's sea law, sea jurisdiction. That's not land jurisdiction. If you go look at your birth certificate, it's going to be in an all-caps name. They turned you into a corporation. They actually did it through the doctors at the hospital with the birthings, okay? You're birthed. Guys, we were born. But now they're talking about a birth certificate. Well, if you go and you look at sea law, you're birthed. When you do shipping manifests and all of that, it says birth. It's a birth. It's for cargo. They turned you into cargo. They turned us all into cargo. And a fictitious entity, okay? Now, I know some of you are probably saying, look, lady, you are crazy. Now you've done lost your mind. But I just want you to go look because I had to do this. Like, I literally had to do this. I want you right now, not you guys, but I'm talking to people who are watching this on video. Go get your checkbook. Go get your debit card. Go get your credit card. Go get any bill that you have. Go get your birth certificate, your driver's license, your social security card. I don't care. Anything that's in your name other than like a birthday card from your grandmother. Because your grandma is going to know how to write your name. Go look at it. It's in all capital letters. Anyone in law knows that an all caps name is a corporation. They know this stuff, guys. The attorneys know it. The judges know it. They know it. They know what they're doing to us. They know they are robbing us blind. When you go to court or when you go get your driver's license, what happened is your mom went into the hospital and went and saw a doctor who has the titles of nobility owned by the Brits, and guess what? They are considered to be like a captain or something in the Navy, British Navy. They actually hold a Navy position, all right, in the British Navy. And so when your mom signs off on the application for your birth certificate and that doctor signs off on it, he's signing off in British Admiralty law and signing off that you went and took a foundling. I don't know if you know about foundling centers, but back during that time, they made every hospital, every police station, every courthouse a foundling center, which means if you find a baby, you could literally go to the cops or go to the hospital and drop it off, and you would not be held responsible for dropping off a baby and saying, I found this baby, and it's not mine. I don't know what to do with it, and you won't be penalized. They'll just take it in and find a place to adopt it or put it in an orphanage or whatever. They had centers that you could do it. Well, all hospitals are foundling centers. And when you came in and you signed in that application, you are literally saying that you found your child and you are now signing that child off to be a ward of the state. That's what happened. That's what happened. And we didn't know we were doing it. And guess what? My mama did it, and she wasn't given knowledge or consent of what she was doing. She wasn't told that she was signing me off as a ward of the state to have a birth certificate in an all-caps letter and turn me into a corporation. And every piece of paper and document that you have, guys, everything you have is in a corporation's name. It's a fictitious entity. There's nothing that you have. Your house, go look at your warranty deed. Guys, go look at everything you have and own. You don't own your car. You don't own your house. You don't own nothing. They own everything. They own you, and they make you. They're actually misrepresenting you because they're actually saying that fake entity is you, the living man, and you're not. That's not you. That is a corporation, fictitious entity that has billions of dollars in that account because it's all of our prepaid credit. That Social Security number and that account with the birth certificate, and when you do all that, you go fill out for a credit card and all of this stuff, you go fill out for a house, that account that they're hitting has millions upon millions of dollars in it. That's why when you go to the courts and they want to charge all this crap in your name and you go buy a house, you've already bought the house. Before you sign that mortgage, your credit paid for it. When they do a credit check, you already paid for that house with that credit check through your credit. And let me tell you something. When you do multiple credit checks like I did when I bought my mobile home, we had to do like 7 different people. Each one of them got paid the full amount right then. That makes you sick. It makes you sick when you realize they all got paid like $200,000 a piece. And then they do this mess of saying, oh, well, you know, we got to wait 2 or 3 months because we got to do all the paperwork and blah, blah, blah to do this mortgage. It was already paid for, guys. Same thing with a car. The moment they do the credit check is taking your credit. That's taking your prepaid credit from HJR 192 of 1933. We have all that credit, and they all know it. That's why the judges are rich. That's why all of these government officials are rich. They are eating us alive from our credit because we don't know no better, and we didn't know. It's sickening. Well, here's the good news, because here we are, and I could go on and on about what all has happened, but nothing's changed. And now we're being pillaged and pillaged and pillaged. But you know what? This system and this whole government, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, I really don't care. The system that's up there, the Congress that's up there is not our Congress. It's sea jurisdiction. The president that's up there is run and controlled by Israel, and they're run and controlled by the Brits, and they're run and controlled by the popes. Which is why it doesn't matter if we get a Republican in there or a Democrat in there. They don't do anything for the people. It doesn't matter if we put Republican or Democrat in the Congress, guys. They're not there for us. They're there for our money. And they know it. By the time they get to that level, they know about our credit. And they are eating it alive. And they are getting rich as crap. They go in there poor like us, and they come out millionaires. Look it up. Every stinking congressman is filthy, stinking rich. And they go in like us, and they come out filthy, stinking rich. Presidents are the same way. Go look at them, all of them. Judges, I don't care. County level, all the way up. It doesn't matter. And you know what? We've had enough. The American people have had enough. We're Americans. We're not British. We're not U.S. citizens. I need to explain this last thing to you, and then I will tell you how you can get free. Because there is a way out. And our founders put it in place. And thank God for Anna Reisinger and her husband, James Belcher, who decided when they found out, when they were already in their 50s and 60s, when they found out, I don't remember how old they were, but they were already grandparents when they found out about this, and thank God they had the guts to stand up and fight for our country and for our people. So, you're not a U.S. citizen, but all of your paperwork says that you are. Okay? You were born an American. You were born in whatever state you were born in. All right? But here's the problem. The problem is every piece of paperwork that you have says otherwise. We've already discussed this, right? Simple process. You are an American state national of the state you were born in. You need your birth certificate to prove that you were born in your state. I know it's a false record, but you got to have it. You need your birth certificate. You also need your driver's license, form of photo ID proving who you are. And then you need 2 witness statements that have known you for 7 years. 2 people that have known you for 7 years that witness and say, you know what, that is Barb Smith. I know that's her. I've known her for 7 years. We've been neighbors for 7 years, you know what I mean, to prove that they know who you are. And then you do a 1779 statement, which is basically saying, look, y'all did some messed up stuff to me. I am an American state national, and I claim my nationality back. We have to claim our nationality back. We have to. And you claim your nationality back. We have all of that stuff online. If you go to TASA, TASA.AmericanStateNationals.org. I'm going to say that again. TASA, TASA.AmericanStateNationals.org, and you can go look up. The paperwork is all there. You can go read about it. There's a lot of this stuff online. There's all kinds of stuff that's on that website. You can also go and you can find your state assembly. Like I said, each state is its own nation state. Our Federation of State Government for the country is up and running and has been up and running since like 2004. We've had all 50 states in operation since 2019. All 50 states are up and running. You can actually go click on the map that's there to find your state, and you can go find your coordinators for your state, and you can get on board. We've got to rebuild our counties, guys. In Arkansas, we have our state courts up. Our state common law courts have been up since 2023. We were one of the first to put our common law courts. We've actually had rulings on 2 cases. And we've also had 4 sessions of grand juries that have ruled on stuff for the last 4 sessions. And they run 6 months at a time. So, I mean, our courts are up here in Arkansas. But you need to go, look, it's a government. Look, guys, we were taught this, but we really didn't understand it. It's a government run by the people, for the people, of the people. It was meant to be a government not run by bureaucrats. Our federal republic, which is not in session or running, but our Republican form of government in each state is run by normal, everyday people like you and me. It's for, of, and by the people. That's the way it was set up. We were taught that. We can all say that all day long, but we're not run that way. It's run by bureaucrats. It's run by a foreign country has come in and taken over our country, guys. It's just real simple. That is exactly what happened in 1865. That's what happened. And we've been living with it ever since, and we didn't know. We didn't know. But we know now. And now that we know, we have to do something about it. Now, that's what you do to come back to become an American state national and get back on the land and soil. It's time to get your land legs. You've been out on sea way too long. You have been on sea way too long, and you didn't know you were out at sea. You did not know you were lost at sea. Okay? The second thing that we have what's called the Global Family Banking System. That has been in operation. That has been in operation since 2007. Hunter and his team has been building our banking system since then. We are owed prepaid credit. A bunch of it. And the SWIFT system, the whole banking system that they have is a fraud. It's all fraud because it all goes back to the birth certificate because they changed this into corporations without giving our parents knowledge or consent. That is fraud. It goes back to the birth certificate. It goes back to that as fraud. Every single birth certificate that was ever done is all fraud. They owe us all of our credit. They owe us our parents' credit, our grandparents' credit, our great-grandparents' credit, because it goes all the way back to 1865, and fraud vitiates everything, and there's no statute of limitations on fraud. The whole system has to come crashing down. Plain and simple. That's it. It's plain and simple. So that's how you become an American state national now. If you complain, and I hear you guys, why do I have to do 3 sheets of paper? Well, I'm sorry. That's the only way that we have to prove that you are not a British U.S. citizen. Because if you're a U.S. citizen, you can't own land here. You can't own your own property here. You don't get prepaid credit. You have to use their court system, which is wrong, and you don't get common law. You have to prove that you were born. You have to do the 3 pieces of paper. I'm sorry. It's simple, guys. We've been robbed. You want your money. You want your credit. You want everything back. You got to do 3 pieces of paper. It's that simple. And you got to record it. It's got to be recorded, not registered. We don't register nothing. We record everything. That's land jurisdiction. If they ever ask you to register something, you know you're talking about sea jurisdiction, British law, the king. You're under the rule of the king, and you are his serf. Okay? All right. Make it real simple. So you do the 3 pieces of paper. Our banking system. Been working on it since 2007. That's a long time, y'all. It is functional. It is ready to go live, up and running. The reason it hasn't gone live, up and running is because guess who we're battling? The Brits. We're battling the system that is in place of these controllers who don't want us to know that we already know they're using our credit and they're making themselves rich on it, and it's owed to us. We're live and ready to go active. We have all of the stuff. If you go to, I can't remember, is it, somebody give me the website for Gloobal Family so people can go. Is it Gloobal Family?
Gloobal 528.
Okay. Gloobal 528.
Just a minute.
Hang on. I'm going to make sure I'm going to keep talking while they're giving me the website, because, guys, you need to go look this up, because not only do you need to do those 3 sheets of paper that I just told you about, you need to go sign up. Once you do your 3 sheets of paper, you go sign up for your Gloobal Family Banking account. It's easy, carriage banking. You can do home loans there. It's not a loan.
Gloobal528.com.
Okay, Gloobal, and then the number 528.com. Gloobal528.com. Gloobal528.com. And then you go there and you set up your Gloobal Family Banking account, and you follow the instructions of what you do to set up that account. Now, you will have to send them your paperwork. They're going to want a copy of your driver's license. They're going to want a copy of your birth certificate. They're going to want a copy of the 3 sheets of paper I just told you about. They're going to want a copy of all that. And then you're going to get an account. And then within that account, you will have access to what's called AFDs, the American Federation Dollar. Guys, the FRNs, which are the dollars that we have right now, they're not attached to gold or silver. That was taken out in 1970 by Truman, okay? That stuff was taken down. They took us off the gold standard back then, which means there's nothing backing your money. And we were backed by oil, okay? Up until, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, that the Saudis said, we're not backing your dollar anymore, which they never should have backed our dollar in the first place. It was backed by oil up until the Saudis said no more. So there's nothing backing the dollar that we have in our pocket. The only value that it has.
IOUs.
They're IOUs. That's it. It's an IOU. It's basically the government saying, I owe you money. They're worth nothing. But our AFDs through Gloobal Family Banking, it's called American Federation Dollar. They're backed by gold and silver. Okay, they're backed by gold. And we have silver backing too. All right. The way it actually works, or did work, was all of the gold dollars were usually used overseas because everybody used gold, but the silver that we used was used within each state. That's the way they did it back in the day. A lot of times people held on to their gold. They used that for international trade. But when you're dealing locally, because you usually won't spend as much money that way, they would deal in silver. You see what I'm saying? So we have silver stuff as well. And then you also have your prepaid credit. You have like a debit card. Like I said, you would have this card with a QR code or whatever, and that's on your account, and you would use that, and you can swipe it for the stuff that you need, and it would be used for your prepaid credit, your things going on. And anyway, that's what you do. And that's for the state of where we are. But the good news is that all 50 states are up. Guys, if you don't already know, Trump just mentioned not too long ago, this just happened a couple weeks ago, President Trump, who is in the jurisdiction, right? He's not the president of our federal government and our Republican form of government. I need to tell you this real quick before we end too. If you go look in the Constitution, Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, go look it up, guys. Go look it up. Okay? Article 4, Section 4, Constitution, the one we're all used to. That's the C jurisdiction Constitution, the Constitution of the United States of America, British Constitution. If you go look up Article 4, Section 4, it says it is a requirement. It is a requirement of the government to protect and guarantee our Republican form of government in every state. To protect and guarantee our Republican form of government in every state. Well, guess what? We are the Republican form of government here in Arkansas. But the government that we have, I'm sorry, Sarah Sanders is our governor, and, you know, your lieutenant governor, and these, you know, Kim Griffin, who's the attorney general, and all of their Supreme Court people and all that, they are not in our jurisdiction. They are not a Republican form of government. They are here, and they are occupying, they're a foreign entity occupying our territory. But the Constitution says they have to guarantee and protect us as a Republican form of government, because we are the Republican form of government on our state. We're land jurisdiction. And their sea stuff can't even operate here. They're not even supposed to be anywhere in our state. That's your DMV. That's your tax people. That goes up to your Supreme Court, then your state, all of these county courts, all of these officers, your legislature that's there. It's all a fraud. It's all fraud. And they're all not supposed to be here, and they're all in a foreign jurisdiction. And they're not even supposed to be operating in our state. And even their Constitution says that they have to guarantee and protect the Republican form of government in every state. And you know what? It's time to get back to our Constitution. 250 years is what we're coming up on July 4th. Guys, we need everybody to know and understand what has happened to us and come back to the land and soil, and let's build this thing right and do this thing right and kick out these foreign entities. If they're not going to change their status and come over and help us build the government the right way, then they need to go back, and we need to put them on a ship and send them back to Britain. Send them back to Britain. It's that simple. All of them. No offense. Attorneys, doctors, judges, anybody that's got, we don't have judges here. We have justices, justices of the peace. It's a whole different jurisdiction. It's a whole different system. And I say all that, I know that that was a mouthful for all of you to hear. And I know that some of you are probably cussing me again and probably saying, there's no way this stuff is true. Go look it up. Go to TAFTA.AmericanStateNationals.org. Go to Gloobal528.com. Go do some research. If you think I'm crazy and I've lost my mind, just go get the Constitution out and read Article 4, Section 4. Go look up common law. Go look up the Magna Carta from 1215 and see what common law actually covers, because basically Magna Carta is common law. It is the common law that we go by. Go look this stuff up. Go look up Erastus C. Benedict, who was the form of American Admiralty law. Go look up the Judiciary Act of 1789. You know what I mean? Go look these things up. And so, I know it's a lot to swallow, and I know that there's so much more that I could go into, but I just want to, you can go to the Arkansas Assembly on YouTube, and we have a bunch of teachings and trainings there. You can go look at some of the videos that we've done there. You can also go to thearkansasassembly.net. That is our website for our state assembly. Go and check out your own state if you're not in Arkansas. But guys, get involved. Come back to the land and soil. Let's rebuild the government that our founders put together, and it was so intricately done and done correctly. But guess what? We don't need the Brits here anymore. We don't need them here running our navies and all that. They're the mercenary force that has been put on us. We can start over and build and have our own American military and our own army and our own sons and daughters and treat them right. You know what I mean? Get the credit that we need and rebuild this whole country the way it was supposed to be done, and educate people with the truth and not lies. It's time for the lies to end. And so that's all I've got. And I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen and to hear the truth of this. And I'm sure we'll have more videos come up, because there's so much that needs to be spread. The truth needs of all of these industries and all of these things. There's so much more that needs to be said, but this is what has happened in America. And I have given you the remedy to help fix it. And so we just ask that you join us. And thank you guys for being here.
Good job. Good job.
Please tell me how to cook it.